Good morning. It's February 15th at 10:14 a.m. my time. I've got to turn my phone off because my phone is blown up from my childhood friends reliving the glory days of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that's a little bit too much information for me trying to find clarity in what I've got to convey to you people out there. My name is Patrick Lovell. I'm a muck rocker. I'm a investigative journalist. I'm a television producer. I produced a five-part television series called The Con that took us over a decade to figure out. That is available at www.thecon.tv, which is the motherlode of all truths. It's the lost ark. It's the the ultimate answer that everybody's looking for and nobody understands. So I've had a wild morning, as I think most of us have, and I'm trying to kind of extrapolate a lot of what's happening in a lot of the media that I absorb and what people are talking about in context to actually what's happening in my life, so that hopefully you guys can tap into what this is all about. And ultimately, I'm just trying to become Uma Thurman after she got that adrenaline shot in her heart in Pulp Fiction after she had a heroin overdose, because that's exactly what has to happen to the United States. So I got this call this morning, and actually over the course of the last couple of days, from one of my favorite people that I've ever met in this lifetime, and his name is Richard Bowen. And Richard Bowen was giving a speech at a college and a university in the city where I live, and we met for coffee after on his way to the airport. And it was pretty timely because in the news last night and over the course of the last week, it's been revealed that the National Archives has asked or requested the Department of Justice to investigate Donald Trump, both getting rid of in a crazy way. It seems to be that there was top secret documents that Trump may have literally been flushing down the toilet of the White House. And he took boxes and boxes of this top secret information to Mar-a-Lago, which of course is a felony. And so why does that relate to a gentleman by the name of Richard Bowen, most of whom of you don't know who that is? Well, you would know who that is if you saw The Con, but let me put it to you this way. If this is big with Trump as it relates to the National Archives, Richard Bowen, his revelation of what we have in The Con from the National Archives is literally 3 trillion times larger. Now, I've got to bring this back to some things that have been going on in media. I mean, last night it was ridiculous, right? So I'm watching CNN just to kind of absorb what mainstream is trying to pontificate or lay on us, on a nightly basis. And of course, what's the lead is, the potential Russian invasion of Ukraine. But shortly thereafter, there was this panel that was moderated also by none other than Jeffrey Toobin, the former federal prosecutor who, of course, claimed to fame was the OJ time period. But I think more recently, his other claim to fame was pulling out and wanking it on a Zoom call about a year ago. But of course, CNN hired him back because they're not worried about guys like that. But they're gonna go after guys like Joe Rogan and everything that constitutes. But what the panel was talking about was Donald Trump's accountants that are suddenly saying, we're done with Trump, that we can't actually, attest to all of the information that the Trump organization gave us over the course of, I think it's over a decade. I think they started that, working for Trump back in 2009. But now that the Department of Justice and the AG of New York are looking into Trump, they're washing their hands of Donald Trump. But what's remarkable about this, and given, of course, that I met with Dick Bowen today, and it'll all come full circle, so just bear with me. So that, Jeffrey Toobin, Mr. What he did on Zoom, is a guy who's talking about literally stuff that is 10,000 light years behind what actually is going on. What they're saying is that, oh, hey, maybe this accountant firm has got the credibility and they're the good guys in this because, of course, they signed off on Trump's tax records for over a decade. But now that they're being investigated, they're like, yeah, no, we don't want to have anything to do with that, which mainstream then levers as some sort of context to be able to say, oh, look, Donald Trump may have been up to no good. Here's the real story, guys. And I don't have evidence of this specific case as it relates to Donald Trump, but I can tell you in terms of what we've done in the con, it all comes down to accounting, which follows through control fraud, which every financial institution in this country, particularly the biggest, that we call too big to fail banks, were involved with based on what we call control fraud. And there's an engineered aspect of that where every CEO of this country, so imagine Donald Trump and what he's being investigated for now, which is he used hyperinflated assets. So, for example, he has this penthouse that he claimed was 30,000 square feet when in actuality it was 10,000 square feet. His organization said it was worth $250 million when actually it was $50 million. And a whole, a set of other scenarios in control fraud and techniques and accounting tricks that he uses to be able to get loans from banks like Deutsche Bank, who are involved on a global scale of control fraud. This is what Jamie Dimon, Lloyd Blankfein, Brian Moynihan, and I could go on, John Mack, all the rest of them from institutions like literally Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, and so on and so forth, were all involved with the same behavior, except in the case of Trump, it's in one really relatively small organization in context to all of the others that I had just mentioned to you, which of course brings me full circle to Dick Bowen. Dick Bowen, it's hard for me to put into words how heroic he is. So he was at the apex of underwriting for Citigroup, which is the largest bank in the United States and one of the largest in the world, if not the largest. I think it goes between Citigroup and Chase and Deutsche Bank, but it's definitely one of the top three. And what he found as the chief underwriter is very similar situations of what is now being explored by the AG of New York and the Department of Justice and the Southern District of Manhattan into Trump, which was control fraud. And so what he did, and he was shown on 60 Minutes many years ago, where he told Scott Pelley exactly what was going on, but because 60 Minutes only has a tiny format, they weren't able to actually get to the truth of what Richard Bowen actually knew, which brings me full circle to the National Archives. So Richard Bowen was going to his boss, and then his boss's boss, and then his boss's boss, which ultimately led to the Citigroup named as chairman of the board a guy by the name of Robert Ruben, who was a former CEO of Goldman Sachs turned Treasury Secretary of the United States under Clinton, who actually was responsible for the deregulation and all of the stuff that led to this massive criminal enterprise that then when the world blew up, Ruben was named chairman of Citigroup, and Richard Bowen had gone to his boss's bosses and everybody else to say, look, we're selling illegal reps and warranties, which are fraudulent securities based on the most massive criminal conspiracy and cover-up in history that constitutes the con. They were selling $90 billion a year of illegal reps and warranties that were securities that they blew up the world with into pensions and everybody else, which has been a theme of some of my talks over the course of the last couple of days, that ultimately was to the tune of $90 billion a year for Citigroup. So we had, after the 2008 great financial crisis, 2009, 2010, and then ultimately in 2011 with the FCIC, the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, where they did this song and dance pony show where they were supposedly doing the investigation into what Wall Street did after the 11 hearings. That was also really actually a fantastic investigation, but it was bipartisan in the FCIC, and they got to Richard Bowen and they investigated him, and he had meanwhile sent thousands of emails with thousands of documents and thousands of names, well, hundreds of names within the system of who was involved with covering up the magnitude of this $90 billion a year fraud scheme. And then when Citigroup named chairman of the board, chair, I should say, of Citigroup, Robert Ruben, Dick Bowen had the courage to send an email based on Sarbanes and Oxley law, which was created during the Bush administration to deal with stuff that took place during the Enron era frauds with WorldCom, Enron, and WorldCom, I should say, and a handful, I can't remember the other one out of Philadelphia. But they tried to end this by putting the CEOs and the executive staff on the hook for the reps and warranties that they were actually selling to the public. So Richard Bowen comes in, spells it all out completely, provides the emails to the chair and so on and so forth, and they do this song and dance that we discovered at the National Archives, of which yours truly, it was just one of the most amazing experiences of my life. Basically, when you go to the National Archives, you only have 2 hours to be able to find what you're looking for. It's like a needle in a haystack. Imagine the Lost Ark inside that huge warehouse at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and trying to find that if you don't know where it is because it's not marked, it's not named. And by the way, you can't take pictures. You can only do handwritten notes. And so they gave us thousands of documents based on what the FCIC did. And Dick Bowen had an idea that they somehow hid the information that he provided Robert Ruben. And what Robert Ruben and his executive staff did was they basically took the information that Dick Bowen had handed him, but it went to a couple of different people on the board who supposedly hid it from Robert Ruben, but he was informed directly by Dick Bowen, which ends up in the notes at the National Archives, of which then disappears into history because they didn't release this information for, I think it was 7 years. It might have been 5 to 7 years, but we got there shortly thereafter, and we got the permit to be able to go through all of these files, and we proved it on camera. But they gave us documents of thousands of reams of notes that were taken during this time period, and ultimately I opened it up to the very page that proved that Robert Ruben was informed by Dick Bowen of the illegal reps and warranties that Citibank was selling to the tune of $90 billion a year, that then ultimately the Securities and Exchange Commission, the FCIC, the DOJ, and everybody else involved with supposedly trying to investigate this stuff, put off to the side, hid in the National Archives, and it disappeared for history until I opened up the page and it's in the frickin' con. So if, for example, there's a to-do about taking down Donald Trump based on what is naturally another circus scenario with Donald Trump. Could you imagine flushing, top secret reports in the bathrooms of the White House by a guy who was completely up to his eyeballs in this madness of control fraud and predatory lending and everything else? It's absolutely insane. But then guys like Jeffrey Toobin and the media don't have any idea what they're looking like. Meanwhile, they're ignoring the likes of Dick Bowen, of which we have in the con. And the kicker is this. Citigroup walked as a result of being able to hide this situation. Had the SEC and the DOJ actually investigated this stuff, guys like Robert Ruben could have very well gone to jail, if you want to know the truth. But instead, Citigroup walked with $3 trillion of illegal loans based on them selling illegal reps and warranties this entire time to the globe that blew it up. And they walked with $3 trillion because Robert Ruben was an inside guy that could basically prevent the government from finding the truth on behalf of the American people, of which Dick Bowen had the courage to lay out for everyone, but nobody listened except for us. Which brings me full circle to the other guy that I was listening to, and I've been listening to a lot recently. His name is Russell Brand. Russell Brand is a terrific comedian, a guy with an incredible soul, an incredible heart. He's trying to create an awakening. He wants everybody to understand corruption. He wants everybody to get on the same page, to rise above this madness. And he came up with this concept this morning that I thought was just incredible in terms of his verbal skills. And he called it ideological Viagra. And what he was referencing was the Democratic Party, which basically lies, denies, switches the blame, and implicates, and is in on all of this freaking corruption, and they can do it nonstop. And he was referring to it as an ideological Viagra. And he said that would keep them hard to be able to sell hollow truths to the world, which are lies. And Russell, you're on the money. You're on the money about everything that you talk about, but this is what's freaking nuts. And I got to make this appeal to the American people and whoever watches this, and I hope it grows. Like I said, I'm Uma Thurman and the hypodermic needle in the chest of America, waking up from a heroin comatose because we're all being lied to every single day. And guys like Russell Brand have great instincts. In fact, Russell is talking about we've got to come together to create some sort of social movement to be able to create a revolution against this situation. I'm saying the same thing, Russell. In fact, what I've been trying to do is create a civil rights-like movement to purge corruption. And I'm doing it based on the facts because I'm a muckraking investigative journalist in the vein of Upton Sinclair and Hunter S. Thompson. And I've got the goddamn truth the fucking world is looking for. Pardon my language. Especially pardon my language to Dick Bowen, who's a conservative minister who's a man of God. And so I hope I didn't embarrass you, Dick, but I think you're the most, unbelievably courageous human being I've ever met. Thank God you do exist because that's in our hands. And Russell, I'm trying to wake you up to the details because I have a vision for what I call the resurrection. Not to be confused with the insurrection, all these freaking buffoons that are playing ball with MAGA and everybody else, chasing the big lie, which was baked in and built from all of the stuff that I'm trying to turn you on to. I've got the answers you're looking for, Russell. And the way I framed it, you're the master of language. I'm nowhere near your freaking aptitude at being able to put these things together. But I learned a long time ago, because I was asking these questions 12 years ago, that you're asking now, Russell. And your gatekeepers are preventing from you to understand that we've got the truth you're looking for. But the way I had to size it up when I went around this country, and I got to literally Oz, it was like the Wizard of Oz. I went on this incredible cross-country journey many, many times over, and I'll never forget approaching both Washington, D.C. and New York, which is literally Oz. And I sized it up this way. We got two columns of our soul, Russell. On one side, we've got character, integrity, and dignity. On the other side, we've got hypocrisy, duplicity, and complicity. And everybody, no matter who they are, what stripe, what ideological bent, no matter who they are, they're going one way or the other, depending on the situation. And everybody out there knows it. And this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Integrity matters. Liberty and justice matters. The greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince the world he didn't exist, and they're pissing on your head telling you it's rain. Who am I? I don't know why I've got to be the guy that has this heavy load on my back. I don't know why I had to go across this country and find heroes like Michael Winston, who've had 30, laryngeal surgeries on his throat because he's got laryngeal cancer from a situation that went back to him being a whistleblower based on all the fraud that we're talking about. And then Dick Bowen, who does what I just told you about. And then I've got others. I've got Paul Pelletier, former director of investigation, white collar fraud, that wants to create a Manhattan-like project right now to purge corruption. I'm down with them, and I'm trying to create a political solution to where we can create the resurrection so that we can all get together on the same page. Whether you think you are left, whether you think you are right, we're all under the thumb of corruption. Russell, you're right, but I've got the information. America, everybody, please pay attention to what I'm telling you. Please Twitter bomb Russell like crazy, because I've got access to his gatekeepers and they're ignoring me because apparently I'm not a part of their club. Meanwhile, I've got the $29 trillion truth that has become the $50 trillion truth, and it's the same story. Second verse, same as the first. It's been going on ad nauseum for the last 13 years because we're none the wiser, because our entire media system has lied to us. Everything you guys know intuitively in terms of there being fake media, in terms of there being corruption, in terms of the whole system being rigged, it is. And I know how, and I need to teach it to you. And it's all in the con at www.thecon.tv. But unless we know the facts, there's no way in hell we can create a resurrection. I'm begging you guys. I think everything is on the line. Democracy, the future of the United States, liberty and justice for all, and quite frankly, the future of the planet, I shit you not, is all incorporated in this. And last message to you, Russell, man, you and I are both big disciples of Vandana Shiva. Man, that woman is one of the greatest human beings on the freaking planet, and everything that she talks about as it relates to agriculture and Monsanto and Microsoft and Bill Gates and all of those things that play out, and that whole insane situation that happens in India that led to these revolts that we're talking about from the farmers that are protesting. Amen, brother. But that's what I've got on our financial system. Quit ignoring me, please, Russell. We're on the same team, dude. Let's join arms. Let's walk in freaking harmony, and let's do what we know has to be done. Thank you. Onwards and upwards, people. Later.